Man, look at we here, brother. We here.
All right. All right.
Hey,
Yes. Let's
30
go.
seconds. It's counting down
Mm.
on us, huh? Man, you think it's
Ooh-wee.
gonna be interesting? You think? What are your thoughts, bro?
Man,
What
it's
are your
gonna be.
thoughts?
It could be a party. I mean, it might be a rodeo. It might be some bucking. That's why I got my cowboy hat on right now. Let's go. It might be some bull
I
riding and
want to
all
see
of
it.
that.
I want to see it, man. Hey, look, everybody, all our congregation, man. Hit the subscribe button, hit the thumbs up, man. We about to get started with this thing. Let's do it. Let's do it.
Former President Trump. They both want your vote and both want a second term. Right now, live, they finally
Yeah, it
face
is.
each other in front of a divided nation.
I just want to debate this guy. Make my day, pal.
Now,
That's
from
hey,
ABC
Joe, let's
News
go, Joe.
Interesting.
headquarters,
All right, he won it.
Let's go,
He
President.
won it.
Good evening again, everyone. We are just seconds away from bringing you this presidential debate, this pivotal moment in the 2024 race for the White House.
Let's do it.
President Biden and Donald Trump about to take the stage for tonight's first presidential debate in Atlanta. The first time a sitting president and a former president go head-to-head. President Biden intensely preparing at Camp David. Donald Trump with policy.
You know what?
sessions
He was
behind
at
the
he was
scenes.
at Camp David
We will
for
now
quite
see
some
how their
time.
strategies pay off.
It's
Tonight's
okay.
debate
Don't
is
start
hosted
hating,
by
okay?
CNN
I
and
mean,
airing
for
right here
over
on
a
ABC.
week, man, or
The
something like that.
presidential debate. President Biden, former President
baby,
Trump,
for sure.
starts right now.
Nation's highest office. Each will make his case to the American people with just over 4 months until Election Day. Good evening, I'm Dana Bash, anchor of CNN's Inside Politics and co-anchor of
Let's
State of the
go.
Union.
I'm Greg Tapper, anchor of CNN's The Lead and co-anchor of State of the Union. Dana and I will co-moderate this evening. Our job is to facilitate a debate between the two candidates tonight. Before we introduce them, we want to share the rules of the debate with the audience at home. Former President Trump will be on the left side of the screen. President Biden will be appearing on the right. A coin toss determined their positions. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to answer a question and 1 minute each for responses and rebuttals. An additional minute for follow-up, clarification, or response is at the moderator's discretion.
When it's time for a candidate to speak, his microphone will be turned on and his opponent's microphone will be turned off. Should a candidate
I don't like that.
when his
I don't know about
microphone is
that. What do you
muted,
think about that?
It will be difficult to
Well,
understand for
they
You know what I'm
viewers
saying?
at home. At the end of the debate, each
If he-
candidate will get 2 minutes
listen.
for closing
Yeah,
statements. There is no studio audience tonight. Pre-written notes, prompts, or contacts with
man.
campaign staff are not permitted during the debate. By accepting our invitation to debate, both candidates and their campaigns agreed to accept these rules.
Okay.
Now, please welcome
All
the
right.
46th President of the United States, Joe
There
Biden.
you go.
Let's go. Let's
There
go.
he is.
Let's go. That's our president right now.
He used to the cheering and everything, right?
Yeah.
Nobody's there.
I wish they had an audience, but that's cool.
Man.
That's cool.
For sure.
And please welcome the 45th President of the United States, Donald Trump.
Let's go. He got a little swag walk to him. Let's go.
You know
Let's go,
it.
farmer. Let's
know
go.
They ain't gonna shake your hand or nothing.
Gentlemen,
They gonna
thanks so much for being here. Let's
fist
begin
bump.
the debate, and let's start with the issue that voters consistently say is their top concern, the economy. President Biden, inflation has slowed, but prices remain high. Since you took office, the price of essentials has increased. For example, a basket of groceries that cost $100 then now costs more than $120. And typical home prices have jumped more than 30%. What do you say to voters who feel they are worse off under your presidency than they were under President Trump?
We got to take a look at what I was left when I became president, what Mr. Trump left me. We had an economy that was in free fall. The pandemic was so badly handled. Many people were dying. All he said was, it's not that serious. Just inject a little bleach into your arm. You'll be all right. The economy collapsed. There were no jobs. Unemployment rate rose to 15%. It was terrible. And so what we had to do is try to put things back together again. And that's exactly what we began to do. We created 15,000 new jobs. We brought out in the position where we have 800,000 new manufacturing jobs, but there's more to be done. There's more to be done. Working class people are still in trouble. I come from Scranton, Pennsylvania. I come of a household where the kitchen table, if the things weren't able to be met during the month, it was a problem. Price of eggs, the price of gas, the price of housing, the price of a whole range of things. That's why I'm working so hard to make sure I deal with those problems.
He's doing all
and
right.
We're going to
right
make
now.
sure that we reduce the price of housing. We're going to make sure we build 2 million new units. We're going to make sure we cap rents so corporate greed can't take over. The combination of what's left than corporate greed is the reason why we're in this problem right now. In addition to that, we're in a situation where if you take a look at all that was done in his administration, he didn't do much at all. By the time he left, things were in chaos. Literally chaos. And so we put things back together. We created, I said, those jobs. We make sure we had a situation where we brought down the price of prescription drugs, which is a major issue for many people, to $15 for a insulin shot as opposed to $400. No senior has to pay more than $200 for any drug, all the drugs they can include beginning next year. And the situation is we're going to make that available to everybody, to all Americans. So we're working to bring down the price around the kitchen table, and that's what we're going to get done.
Thank you, President Trump.
He said a lot.
We have the greatest economy in the history of our country. We have never done so well. Everybody was amazed by it. Other countries were copying us. We got hit with COVID. And when we did, we spent the money necessary so we wouldn't end up in a Great Depression, the likes of which we had in 1929. By the time we finished, so we did a great job. We got a lot of credit for the economy, a lot of credit for the military, and no wars and so many other things. Everything was rocking good. But the thing we never got the credit for, and we should have, is getting us out of that COVID mess. He created mandates that was a disaster for our country. But other than that, we had given them back a country where the stock market actually was higher than pre-COVID, and nobody thought that was even possible. The only jobs he created are for illegal immigrants and bounce back jobs, a bounce back from the COVID. He has not done a good job. He's done a poor job, and inflation's killing our country. It is absolutely killing us.
Thank you, President Biden.
Well, look, the greatest economy in the world, he's the only one who thinks that, I think. I don't know anybody else who thinks he had the greatest economy in the world. And, you know, the fact of the matter is that we find ourselves in a situation where his economy, he rewarded the wealthy. He had the largest tax cut in American history, $2 trillion. He raised a deficit larger than any president has in any one term. He's the only president other than Herbert Hoover who's lost more jobs than he had when he began, since Herbert Hoover. The idea that he did something that was significant. And the military, you know, when he was president, they were still killing people in Afghanistan. He didn't do anything about that. When he was president, we were still finding ourselves in a position where you had a notion that we were this safe country. The truth is, I'm the only president this century that doesn't have this decade, that doesn't have any troops dying anywhere in the world like he did.
President Trump, I want to follow.
I don't know about that.
I
don't know.
We pulled him out, though. Come on.
You can do whatever you want with the minute that we give you.
Let's see what he say. Let's see what he say.
You want to impose a 10% tariff on all goods coming into the U.S. How will you ensure that that doesn't drive prices even higher?
It's not going to drive them higher. It's just going to cost countries that have been ripping us off for years, like China and many others, in all fairness to China. It's going to just force them to pay us a lot of money, reduce our deficit tremendously, and give us a lot of power for other things. But he made a statement. The only thing he was right about is I gave you the largest tax cut in history. I also gave you the largest regulation cut in history. That's why we had all the jobs. And the jobs went down, and then they bounced back, and he's taking credit for bounce back jobs. You can't do that. He also said he inherited 9% inflation. No, he inherited almost no inflation, and it stayed that way for 14 months. And then it blew up under his leadership because they spent money like a bunch of people that didn't know what they were doing. And they don't know what they were doing. It was probably the worst administration in history. There's never been.
Wow.
And as far as Afghanistan,
destroyed that pipeline project.
I was getting out of Afghanistan, but we were getting out with dignity, with strength, with power. He got out. It was the most embarrassing day in the history of our country's life.
President Trump, over the last 8 years, under both of your administrations, the national debt soared to record highs. And according to a new nonpartisan analysis, President Trump, your administration approved $8.4 trillion in new debt. Well, so far, President Biden, you've approved $4.3 trillion in new debt. So, former President Trump, many of the tax cuts that you signed into law are set to expire next year. You want to extend them and go even further, you say. With the U.S. facing trillion-dollar deficits and record debt, Why should top earners and corporations pay even less in taxes than they do now?
Because the tax cuts spurred the greatest economy that we've ever seen just prior to COVID. And even after COVID, it was so strong that we were able to get through COVID much better than just about any other country. But we spurred, that tax spurred. Now, when we cut the taxes, as an example, the corporate tax was cut down to 21% from 39%, plus beyond that. We took in more revenue with much less tax, and companies were bringing back trillions of dollars back into our country. The country was going like never before, and we were ready to start paying down debt. We were ready to start using the liquid gold right under our feet, the oil and gas right under our feet.
Come
we were
on.
going to have something that nobody else has had. We got hit with COVID.
No one be
We
reliant.
did a lot to fix it. I gave him an unbelievable situation with all of the therapeutics and all of the things that we came up with. We gave him something great. Remember, more people died under his administration, even though we had largely fixed it. More people died under his administration than our administration, and we were right in the middle of it, something which a lot of people don't like to talk about. But he had far more people dying in his administration. He did the mandate, which is a disaster, mandating it. The vaccine went out. He did a mandate on the vaccine, which is the thing that people most objected to about the vaccine. And he did a very poor job, just a very poor job. And I will tell you, not only poor there, but throughout the entire world, we're no longer respected as a country. They don't respect our leadership. They don't respect the United States anymore. We're like a third world nation between weaponization of his election, trying to go after his political opponent, all of the things he's done. We've become like a third world nation, and it's a shame. The damage he's done to our country, and I'd love to ask him, and will, why he allowed millions of people to come in here from prisons, jails, and mental institutions to come into our country and destroy our country.
President Trump, we will get to immigration
They
later
fired
in
him
this
in.
block.
Man,
President
yeah.
Biden, I
Going
want to give you an
jabs.
opportunity to respond to this question about the national debt.
He had the largest national debt of any president in a 4-year period, number one. Number two, he got $2 trillion tax cut benefited the very wealthy. What I'm going to do is fix the tax system. For example, we have 1,000 trillionaires in America. I mean, billionaires in America. And what's happening? They're in a situation where they, in fact, pay 8.2% in taxes. If they just paid 24%, 25%, either one of those numbers, they'd raise $500 billion, I should say, in a 10-year period. We'd be able to wipe out his debt. We'd be able to help make sure that all those things we need to do, child care, elder care, making sure that we continue to strengthen our healthcare system, making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the the COVID, with dealing with
Slow down.
everything we have to do with
He lost track. He's lost track, man.
if
He's
Get it
we
together.
finally beat Medicare.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump.
Dude, man.
Okay, he saved him
He's
on
right.
that.
He did beat Medicare. He beat it to death, and he's destroying Medicare because all of these people are coming in. They're putting them on Medicare. They're putting them on Social Security. They're going to destroy Social Security. This man is going to single-handedly destroy Social Security. These millions and millions of people coming in, they're trying to put them on Social Security. He will wipe out Social Security. He will wipe out Medicare. So he was right in the way he finished that sentence. And it's a shame. What's happened to our country in the last 4 years is not to be believed. Foreign countries,
Appreciate that
I'm friends
comment.
with a lot of people. They cannot believe what happened to the United States of America. We're no longer respected. They don't like us. We give them everything they want, and they think we're stupid. They think we're very stupid people. What we're doing for other countries, and they do nothing for us. What this man has done is absolutely criminal.
Thank you, President Trump. Dana?
This
He
is
had
the
a bad
first
moment.
presidential election since
had
the
a
bad-
Supreme Court overturned
Biden
Roe
did.
v. Wade.
Yeah.
This morning, the court ruled on yet another abortion case, temporarily allowing emergency abortions to continue in Idaho, despite that state's restrictive ban. Former President Trump, you take credit for the decision to overturn Roe v. Wade, which returned the issue of abortion to the states.
Correct.
However, the federal government still plays a role in whether or not women have access to abortion pills. They're used in about 2/3 of all abortions. As president, would you block abortion medication?
First of all, the Supreme Court just approved the abortion pill, and I agree with their decision to have done that. and I will not block it. And if you look at this whole question that you're asking, complex, but not really complex. Years ago, you had Roe v. Wade, and everybody wanted to get it back to the states. Everybody, without exception. Democrats, Republicans, liberals, conservatives, everybody wanted it back. Religious leaders. And what I did is I put 3 great Supreme Court justices on the court, and they happened to vote in favor of killing Roe v. Wade and moving it back to the states. This is something that everybody wanted. Now, 10 years ago or so, they started talking about how many weeks and how many this, getting into other things. But every legal scholar throughout the world, the most respected, wanted it brought back to the states. I did that. Now the states are working it out. If you look at Ohio, it was a decision that was, an end result that was a little bit more liberal than you would have thought. Kansas, I would say the same thing. Texas is different. Florida is different. But they're all making their own decisions right now. And right now, the states control it. That's the vote of the people. Like Ronald Reagan, I believe in the exceptions. I am a person that believes. And frankly, I think it's important to believe in the exceptions. Some people, you have to follow your heart. Some people don't believe in that. But I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and the life of the mother. I think it's very important. Some people don't. Follow your heart. But you have to get elected also. And because that has to do with other things. You got to get elected. The problem they have is they're radical because they will take the life of a child in the 8th month, the 9th month, and even after birth. After birth, if you look at the former governor of Virginia, he was willing to do this. He said, we'll put the baby aside and we'll determine what we do with the baby, meaning we'll kill the baby. What happened is we brought it back to the states, and the country is now coming together on this issue. It's been a great thing.
Thank you. President Biden?
It's been a terrible thing, what you've done. The fact is that the vast majority of constitutional scholars supported Roe when it was decided, supported Roe. And that's this idea that they were all against it is just ridiculous. And this is the guy who says the state should be able to have it. We're in a state where in 6 weeks, you don't even know whether you're pregnant or not, but you cannot see a doctor, and have him decide on what your circumstances are, whether you need help. The idea that states are able to do this is a little like saying we're going to turn civil rights back to the states, let each state have a different rule. Look, there's so many young women who have been, including a young woman who just was murdered, and he went to the funeral. The idea that she was murdered by an immigrant coming in, they talk about that. But here's the deal. There's a lot of young women are being raped by their in-laws, by their spouses, brothers and sisters, it's just ridiculous. And they can do nothing about it. And they try to arrest them when they cross state lines.
Thank you.
There have been many young women murdered by the same people he allows to come across our border.
I knew he's going to go there.
We have a border that's the most
he opened that door
place anywhere in the world, considered the most dangerous place anywhere in the world. And he opened it up, and these killers are coming into our country, and they are raping and killing women. And it's a terrible thing. As far as the abortion is concerned, it is now back with the states. The states are voting. In many cases, it's frankly a very liberal decision. In many cases, it's the opposite. But they're voting, and it's bringing it back to the vote of the people, which is what everybody wanted, including the founders, if they knew about this issue, which frankly they didn't. But they would have, everybody wanted brought back. Ronald Reagan wanted it brought back. He wasn't able to get it. Everybody wanted it brought back, and many presidents had tried to get it back. I was the one to do it. And again, this gives it the vote of the people, and that's where they wanted it. Every legal scholar wanted it that way.
That makes sense.
Staying on the topic of abortion, President Biden, 7 states, I'll let you do that. This is the same topic. 7 states have no legal restrictions on how far into a pregnancy a woman can obtain an abortion. Do you support any legal limits on how late a woman should be able to terminate a pregnancy?
Let's
I
hear this.
support Roe v. Wade, which had 3 trimesters. First time is between the woman and the doctor. Second time is between the doctor and an extreme situation. The third time is between the doctor, between the woman and the state. The idea that the politicians, that the founders wanted the politicians to be the ones making decisions about women's health is ridiculous. That's the last. No politician should be making that decision. A doctor should be making those decisions. That's how it should be run. That's what you're going to do. And if I'm elected, I'm going to restore Roe v. Wade.
So that means he can take the life of the baby in the 9th month
He didn't
and
answer.
even
Yep.
after birth, because some states, Democrat run, take it after birth. Again, the former governor of Virginia, put the baby down, and then we decide what to do with it. So he's willing to, as we say, rip the baby out of the womb in the 9th month and kill the baby. Nobody wants that to happen.
That sounds so
or
harsh.
Republican. Nobody
No,
wants it to
I'm not
happen.
down for that.
That is simply
Man.
not true. The
Bro.
Roe v. Wade does not provide for that. That's not the circumstance. Only if a woman's life is in danger, she's going to die. That's the only
Okay.
circumstance in which that can happen. But we are not for late-term abortion, period.
Under Roe v. Wade, you have late-term abortion. You can do whatever you want, depending on the state. You can do whatever you want. We don't think that's a good thing. We think it's a radical thing. We think the Democrats are the radicals, not the Republicans.
For 51 years, that was the law. 51 years, constitutional scholarship said it was the right way to go. 51 years, and it was taken away because this guy put very conservative members on the Supreme Court. He takes credit for taking it away. What's he going to do? What's he going to do? In fact, if the MAGA Republicans, he gets elected, and the MAGA Republicans control the Congress, and they pass a universal ban on abortion, period, across the board at 6 weeks or 7 or 8 or 10 weeks, something very, very conservative. Is he going to sign that bill? I'll veto it. He'll sign it.
Thank you.
Let's turn now to the issue of immigration and border security. President
Man,
Biden,
that was a good
record
ending
number
for
of
him. That was a good
migrants
ending
have
for Biden on
illegally
that.
crossed the southern
I'll
border
get
on
to
your
him. I'll
watch.
get to him.
Overwhelming border states and overburdening cities such as New York and Chicago, and in some cases causing real safety and security concerns. Given that, why should voters trust you to solve this crisis?
Because we worked very hard to get a bipartisan agreement that not only changed all of that, it made sure that we are in a situation where you had no circumstance where they could come across the border with the number of border police there are now. We significantly increased the number of asylum officers, significantly. By the way, the Border Patrol endorsed my position. In addition to that, we found ourselves in a situation where when he was president, he was separating babies from their mothers, putting them in cages, making sure the families were separated. That's not the right way to go. What I've done since I've changed the law, what's happened? I've changed it in a way that now you're in a situation where there are 40% fewer people coming across the border illegally. That's better than when he left office. And I'm going to continue to move until we get the total ban on the total initiative relative to what we're going to do with more Border Patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of
Yeah,
that sentence.
yeah.
I don't think
He
he knows
kinda
what
got
he said
tied
either.
up.
Look,
Yep. Again.
we had the safest border in the history of our country. The border, all he had to do was leave it. All he had to do was leave it. He decided to open up our border, open up our country to people that are from prisons, people that are from mental institutions, insane asylum, terrorists. We have the largest number of terrorists coming into our country right now, all terrorists all over the world, not just in South America, all over the world. They come from the Middle East, everywhere, all over the world, they're pouring in. And this guy just left it open. And he didn't need legislation because I didn't have legislation. I said, close the border. We had the safest border in history. In that final couple of months of my presidency, we had, according to Border Patrol, who is great, and by the way, who endorsed me for president, but I won't say that, but they endorsed me for president.
You already said it.
Brandon, just speak to him. But look, we had the safest border in history. Now we have the worst border in history. There's never been anything like it. And people are dying all over the place, including the people that are coming up in
Thank you,
caravans.
President Trump. President Biden?
The only terrorist who's done anything crossing the border is one who came along and killed three, under his administration, killed an Al-Qaeda person come in and his administration, killed 3 American soldiers, killed 3 American soldiers. That's the only terrorist that's there. I'm not saying that no terrorist ever got
Only.
through. The idea they're emptying their prisons, we're welcoming these people. That's simply not true. There's no data to support what he said. Once again, he's exaggerating, he's lying.
But it's so
President
open.
Trump, staying on the topic of immigration, you've said that you're going to carry out, quote, the largest domestic deportation operation in American history, unquote. Does that mean that you will deport every undocumented immigrant in America, including those who have jobs, including those whose spouses are citizens, and including those who have lived here for decades? And if so, how will you do it?
Just 1 second. He said we killed 3 people. The people we killed are al-Baghdadi and Soleimani, the 2 greatest terrorists, biggest terrorists anywhere in the world. and it had a huge impact on everything, not just border, on everything. He's the one that killed people with the bad water, including hundreds of thousands of people dying and also killing our citizens when they come in. We are living right now in a rat's nest. They're killing our people in New York, in California, in every state in the union, because we don't have borders anymore. Every state is now a border. And because of his ridiculous, insane, and very stupid policies, people are coming in and they're killing our citizens at a level that we've never seen. We call it migrant crime. I call it Biden migrant crime. They're killing our citizens at a level that we've never seen before. And you're reading it like these three incredible young girls over the last few days. One of them, I just spoke to the mother, and she just had the funeral for this girl, 12 years old. This is horrible what's taken place. What's taken place in our country, we're literally an uncivilized country now. He doesn't want it to be. He just doesn't know. He opened the borders. Nobody's ever seen anything like. And we have to get a lot of these people out, and we have to get them out fast because they're going to destroy our country. Just take a look at where they're living. They're living in luxury hotels in New York City and other places. Our veterans are on the street. They're dying because he doesn't care about our veterans. He doesn't care. He doesn't like the military at all. And he doesn't care about our veterans. Nobody been worse. I had the highest approval rating for veterans taking care of the VA. He has the worst. He's gotten rid of all the things that I approved, choice that I got through Congress, all of the different things I approved, they abandoned. We had by far the highest, and now it's down in less than half because he's done all these great things that we did. And I think he did it just because I approved it, which is crazy. But he has killed so many people at our border by allowing all of these people to come in. And it's a very sad day in America.
President Biden, you have the mic.
Every single thing he said is a lie. Every single one. For example, veterans are a hell of a lot better off since I passed the PACT Act. 1 million of them now have insurance, and their families have it. Their families have it because what happened, whether there was Agent Orange or burn pits, they're all being covered now. And his group opposed that. We're also in a situation where we have great respect for veterans. My son spent a year in Iraq, living next to one of those burn pits, came back with stage 4 glioblastoma. I was recently in France for D-Day, and I spoke all about those heroes that died. I went to the World War I cemetery he refused to go to. He was standing with his 4-star general, and he told me, he said, I don't want to go in there because they're a bunch of losers and suckers. My son was not a loser, was not a sucker. You're the sucker. You're the loser.
President Trump?
First of all, that was a made-up quote, suckers and losers. They made it up. It was in a third-rate magazine that's failing, like many of these magazines. He made that up. He put it in commercials. We've notified him. We had 19 people that said I didn't say it. And think of this. Who would say I'm at a cemetery or I'm talking about our veterans? Because nobody's taken better care. I'm so glad this came up, and he brought it up. There's nobody that's taken better care of our soldiers than I have. To think that I would, in front of generals and others, say suckers and losers. We have 19 people that said it was never said by me. It was made up by him, just like Russia was made up, just like the 51 intelligence agents are made up, just like the new thing with the 16 economists are talking. It's the same thing. 51 intelligence agents said that the laptop was Russia disinformation. It wasn't. That came from his son, Hunter. It wasn't Russia disinformation. He made up the suckers and losers, so he should apologize to me right now.
4-star general standing to your side who was on your staff who said you said it, period.
That's but is that a believable story?
Number two, the idea that I have to apologize to you for anything along the line. We've done more for veterans than any president has in American history. And they now are in their family. The only sacred obligation we have as a country is to care for our veterans when they come home and their families and equip them when they go to war. That's what we're doing. That's what the VA is doing now. They're doing more for veterans than ever before in our history.
All right. Thank you so much.
Let's move to the topic of foreign policy. I want to begin with Russia's war against Ukraine, which is now in its third year. Former President Trump, Russian President Vladimir Putin says he'll only end this war if Russia keeps the Ukrainian territory it has already claimed and Ukraine abandons its bid to join NATO. Are Putin's terms acceptable to you?
First of all, our veterans and our soldiers can't stand this guy. They can't stand him. They think he's the worst commander in chief, if that's what you call him, that we've ever had. They can't stand him. So let's get that straight. And they like me more than just about any of them. And that's based on every single bit of information. As far as Russia and Ukraine, if we had a real president, the president that knew, that was respected by Putin, he would have never invaded Ukraine. A lot of people are dead right now, much more than people know. You know, they talk about numbers. You can double those numbers, maybe triple those numbers. He did nothing to stop it. In fact, I think he encouraged Russia from going in. I'll tell you what happened. He was so bad with Afghanistan. It was such a horrible embarrassment, most embarrassing moment in the history of our country, that when Putin watched that and he saw the incompetence, that he should have fired those generals, like I fired the one that you mentioned. And so he's got no love lost, but he should have fired those generals. No general got fired for the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country, Afghanistan, where we left billions of dollars of equipment behind. We lost 13 beautiful soldiers, and 38 soldiers were obliterated. And by the way, we left people behind too. We left American citizens behind. When Putin saw that, he said, you know what? I think we're going to go in and maybe take this was his dream. I talked to him about it, his dream. The difference is he never would have invaded Ukraine, never. Just like Israel would have never been invaded in a million years by Hamas. You know why? Because Iran was broke with me. I wouldn't let anybody do business with them. They ran out of money. They were broke. They had no money for Hamas. They had no money for anything, no money for terror. That's why you had no terror at all during my administration. This place, the whole world is blowing up under him.
President Biden?
Never heard so much malarkey in my whole life. Look, the fact of the matter is that we're in a situation where, let's take the last point first. Iran attacked American troops, caused brain damage for a number of these troops, and he did nothing about it. Recently, not when he was president, they attacked. He said they're just having headaches. That's all it is. He didn't do a thing when the attack took place, number one. Number two, we got over 100,000 Americans and others out of Afghanistan during that airlift. Number three, we found ourselves in a situation where, if you take a look at what Trump did in Ukraine, this guy told Trump, do whatever you want and do whatever you want. And that's exactly what Trump did to Putin, encourage him, do whatever you want. And he went in. And listen to what he said when he went in. He was going to take Kyiv in 5 days, remember? Because it's part of the old Soviet Union. That's what he wanted to reestablish, Kyiv. And he, in fact, didn't do it at all. He wasn't able to get it done. And they've lost thousands and thousands of troops, 500,000 troops.
President Trump,
I never said that.
For 1 minute, I just want to go back to my original question, which is, are Putin's terms acceptable to you? Keeping the territory in Ukraine?
No, they're not acceptable. But look, this is a war that never should have started. If we had a leader in this war, he led everybody along. He's given $200 billion now or more to Ukraine. He's given $200 billion. That's a lot of money. I don't think there's ever been anything like it. Every time that Zelensky comes to this country, he walks away with $60 billion. He's the greatest salesman ever. And I'm not knocking him. I'm not knocking anything. I'm only saying the money that we're spending on this war, and we shouldn't be spending, it should have never happened. I will have that war settled between Putin and Zelensky as president-elect before I take office on January 20th. I'll have that war settled. People being killed so needlessly, so stupidly, and I will get it settled, and I'll get it settled fast before I take office.
President Biden, you have a minute.
The fact is that Putin is a war criminal. He's killed thousands and thousands of people. And he has made one thing clear. He wants to reestablish what was part of the Soviet Empire, not just a piece. He wants all of Ukraine. That's what he wants. And then you think he'll stop there? Do you think he'll stop when if he takes Ukraine? What do you think happens to Poland? What do you think of Belarus? What do you think happens to those NATO countries? And so if you want a war, you ought to find out what he's going to do, because if in fact he does what he says and walks away, by the way, all that money we give Ukraine are from weapons we make here in the United States. We give them the weapons, not the money at this point. And our NATO allies have produced as much funding for Ukraine as we have. That's why we're strong.
I don't believe that.
Moving on to the Middle East.
I like to see
In October,
documentation.
Hamas attacked Israel, killing more than 1,000 people and taking hundreds of hostages. Among those held and thought to still be alive are 5 Americans. Israel's response has killed thousands of Palestinians and created a humanitarian crisis in Gaza. President Biden, you've put forward a proposal to resolve this conflict, but so far Hamas has not released the remaining hostages, and Israel is continuing its military offensive in Gaza. So what additional leverage will you use to get Hamas and Israel to end the war? You have 2 minutes.
There you go.
Number one,
Let's hear it.
everyone from the United Nations Security Council straight through to the G7 to the Israelis and Netanyahu himself have endorsed the plan I put forward. Which has 3 stages to it. The first stage is trade the hostages for a ceasefire. Second phase is a ceasefire with additional conditions. The third phase is the end of the war. The only one who wants the war to continue is Hamas, number one. They're the only ones standing out. We're still pushing hard to get them to accept. In the meantime, what's happened? In Israel, we're finding that the only thing I've denied Israel was 2,000-pound bombs. They don't work very well in populated areas. They kill a lot of innocent people. We're providing Israel with all the weapons they need and when they need them. And by the way, I'm the guy that organized the world against Iran when they had a full-blown intercontinental ballistic missile attack on Israel. No one was hurt. No one Israeli was accidentally killed, and it just stopped. We saved Israel. We are the biggest producer of support for Israel of anyone in the world. And so there are 2 different things. Hamas cannot be allowed to be continued. We continue to send our experts and our intelligence people as to how they can get Hamas like we did bin Laden. You don't have to do it. And by the way, they've been greatly weakened, Hamas, greatly weakened, and they should be. They should be eliminated. But you've got to be careful for using certain weapons among population centers.
Okay, I agree on that. 2,000.
Let's go back to Ukraine for 1 second. We have an ocean separating us. The European nations together have spent 100 billion, or maybe more than that, less than us. Why doesn't he call them and say, you got to put up your money like I did with NATO? I got them to put up hundreds of billions of dollars. The Secretary General of NATO said Trump did the most incredible job I've ever seen. They wouldn't have any, they were going out of business. We were spending almost 100% of the money was paid by us. He didn't do that. He's getting you got to ask these people to put up the money. We're over $100 billion more spent, and it has a bigger impact on them because of location, because we have an ocean in between. You got to ask them. As far as Israel and Hamas, Israel's the one that wants to go. He said the only one who wants to keep going is Hamas. Actually, Israel is the one, and you should let him go and let him finish the job. He doesn't want to do it. He's become like a Palestinian, but they don't like him because he's a very bad Palestinian. He's a weak one.
President Biden, you have a minute.
I've never heard so much foolishness. This is a guy who wants to get out of NATO. Are you going to stay in NATO? He's going to pull out of NATO. The idea that we have, our strength lies in our alliances as well. It may be a big ocean, but we're ever able to avoid a war in Europe, a major war in Europe? What happens if, in fact, you have Putin continue to go into NATO? We have an Article 5 agreement. Attack on one is attack on all. You want to start the nuclear war he keeps talking about, go ahead. Let Putin go in and control Ukraine and then move on to Poland and other places. See what happens then. He has no idea what the hell he's talking about. And by the way, I got 50 other nations around the world to support Ukraine, including Japan and South Korea, because they understand that this kind of dislocation has a serious threat to the whole world peace. No major war in Europe has ever been able to be contained just to Europe.
President Trump, just to follow up, would you support the creation of an independent Palestinian state in order to achieve peace in the region?
I'd have to see, but before we do that, the problem we have is that we spend all the money. So they kill us on trade. I made great trade deals with the European nations because if you add them up, they're about the same size economically. Their economy is about the same size as the United States. And they were no cars, they don't want anything that we have, but we're supposed to take their cars, their food, their everything, their agriculture. I changed that. But the big thing I changed is they don't want to pay. And the only reason that he can play games with NATO is because I got them to put up hundreds of billions of dollars. I said, and he's right about this, I said, no, I'm not going to support NATO if you don't pay.
I
They asked me
remember
that
that.
question. Would you guard us against Russia at a very secret meeting of the 28 states at that time, nations at that time? And they said, no, if you don't pay, I won't do that. And you know what happened? Billions and billions of dollars came flowing in the next day and the next months. But now we're in the same position. We're paying everybody's bills.
Let's turn to the issue of democracy. Former President Trump, I want to ask you about January 6, 2021. After you rallied your
Let's see what they
supporters that
say.
day, some of them stormed the Capitol to stop the constitutionally mandated
All right, here we
counting
go.
of electoral votes.
Let's go.
As president,
Here we
you
go.
swore an oath to, quote, preserve, protect, and defend, unquote, the Constitution. What do you say to voters who believe that you violated that oath through your actions and inaction on January 6th and worry that you'll do it again?
Well, I don't think too many believe that. And let me tell you about January 6th. On January 6th, we had a great border. Nobody coming through, very few. On January 6th, we were energy independent. On January 6th, we had the lowest taxes ever. We had the lowest regulations ever. On January 6th, we were respected all over the world. All over the world, we were respected. And then he comes in, and we're now laughed at. We're like a bunch of stupid people.
He avoiding the
What happened to
question.
the United States' reputation under this
on,
man's leadership is horrible, including weaponization, which I'm sure at some point you'll be talking about, where he goes after his political opponent because he can't beat him fair and square.
You
Answer
have
the
80
question,
seconds
though.
left.
Yeah.
My question
He
was,
didn't
what
answer
do you
the
say
question.
to
There it
those
is.
Come on.
voters who believe that you violated your constitutional oath through your actions and inaction on January 6, 2021, and worry that you'll do it again?
Well, I didn't say that to anybody. I said peacefully and patriotically. And Nancy Pelosi, if you just watched the news from 2 days ago, on tape to her daughter, who's a documentary filmmaker, they say, but she's saying, oh, no, it's my responsibility. I was responsible for this. Because I offered her 10,000 soldiers or National Guard, and she turned them down. And the mayor in writing, by the way, the mayor in writing turned it down, the mayor of D.C. They turned it down. I offered 10,000 because I could see, I had virtually nothing to do. They asked me to go make a speech. I could see what was happening. Everybody was saying they're going to be there on January 6th. They're going to be there. And I said, you know what? There's a lot of people coming. You could feel it. You could feel it too, and you could feel it. And I said, they ought to have some National Guard or whatever. And I offered it to her. And she now admits that she turned it down. And it was the same day she was, I don't know, she can't be very happy with her daughter because it made her into a liar. She said, I take full responsibility for January 6th.
President Biden?
I have to see that. King.
He
Yeah, I
encouraged
don't
those
know
folks
nothing
to
about
go to
that right
Capitol
there.
Hill, number one. I sat in the dining room off the Oval Office. He sat there for 3 hours watching, begging, being begged by his vice president and a number of his colleagues on the Republican side as well to do something, to call for a stop, to end it. Instead, they talked about these people being patriots and great patrons of America. In fact, he says he'll not forgive them for what they've done. They've been convicted. He says he wants to commute their sentences and say that no. But he went to every single court in the nation. I don't know how many cases, scores of cases, including the Supreme Court. And they said, no, this guy is responsible for doing what was done. He did do a damn thing. And these people should be in jail. And they should be the ones who are being held accountable. And he wants to let them all out. And now he says if he loses again, such a whiner that he is, that it could be a bloodbath.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump?
What they've done to some people that are so innocent, you ought to be ashamed of yourself. What you have done, how you've destroyed the lives of so many people. When they ripped down Portland, when they ripped down many other cities, you go to Minnesota, Minneapolis, what they've done there with the fires all over the city. If I didn't bring in the National Guard, that city would have been destroyed. When you look at all of they took over big chunks of Seattle. I was all set to bring in the National Guard. They heard that, they saw them coming, and they left immediately. What he said about this whole subject is so off. Peacefully patriotic. One other thing, the Unselect Committee, which is basically two horrible Republicans that are all gone now out of office, and Democrats, all Democrats, they destroyed and deleted all of the information they found because they found out we were right. We were right. and they deleted and destroyed all of the information. They should go to jail for that. If a Republican did that, they'd go to jail.
Thank you, President Trump. President
I
Biden,
just
I'm
want
gonna
him to
give you a
take some
minute.
type of
The only person on the
accountability.
stage is a convicted felon, is the
For
man
sure.
I'm looking at right now. And the fact of the matter is, what he's telling you is simply not true. The fact is that there was no effort on his part to stop what was going on up in Capitol Hill. And all those people, every one of those who were convicted, deserves to be convicted. The idea that they didn't kill somebody, just went in and broke down doors, broke the windows, occupied offices, turned over desks, turned them over statues. The idea that those people are patriots, come on. When I asked him the first two debates we had, first time around, I said, will you denounce the Proud Boys? He said, no, I'll tell them to stand by. The idea he's refusing, will you denounce these guys? Will you denounce the people we're talking about now? You denounce the people who attacked that Capitol?
Ooh.
What are you going to do?
I'm going to give you a minute, President Trump, for a follow-up question I have.
Oh, he should have let him answer that.
What?
Yeah, he was ready.
4 felonies last month.
He was ready.
If reelected, he would,
What's
quote,
going on?
have every right to go after, unquote, your political opponents. You just talked about members of the Select Committee on January 6th going to jail. Your main political opponent is standing on stage with you tonight. Can you clarify exactly what it means about you feeling you have every right to go after your political opponents?
Well, I said my retribution is going to be success. We're going to make this country successful again, because right now it's a failing nation. My retribution is going to be success. But when he talks about a convicted felon, his son is a convicted felon at a very high level. His son is convicted, going to be convicted probably numerous other times.
That's true.
Should have been convicted before, but his Justice Department let the statute of limitations lapse on the most important things. But he could be a convicted felon as soon as he gets out of office. Joe could be a convicted felon with all of the things that he's done. He's done horrible things. All of the death caused at the border, telling the Ukrainian people that we're going to want $1 billion or you change the prosecutor. Otherwise, you're not getting $1 billion. If I ever said that, that's quid pro quo. That we're not going to do anything. We're not going to give you $1 billion unless you change your prosecutor, having to do with the son. This man is a criminal. This man, you're lucky. You're lucky. I did nothing wrong. We'd have a system that was rigged and disgusting. I did nothing wrong.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden, you have said, I'm coming right to you, sir. You want to respond? Go ahead. I'll give you a minute to respond.
The idea
Should have responded.
that I did anything wrong relative to what you're talking about is outrageous. It's simply a lie, number one.
Talk to him, Joe.
The idea that you have a right to seek retribution against any American just because you're president is wrong. It's simply wrong. No president's ever spoken like that before. No president in our history has spoken like that before. Number three, the crimes that you are still charged with, and think of all the civil penalties you have. How many billions of dollars do you owe in civil penalties for molesting a woman in public, for doing a whole range of things, of having sex with a porn star on the night while your wife was pregnant? I mean, what are you talking about? You have the morals of an alley cat.
Give you a minute, sir.
I didn't have sex with a porn star, number one. Number two, that was a case that was started and moved. They moved a high-ranking official, a DOJ, into the Manhattan DA's office to start that case. That case is going to be appealed and won. We had a very terrible judge, a horrible judge, Democrat. The prosecutor were all high-ranking Democrats, appointed people, and both the civil and the criminal. He basically went after his political opponent because he thought it was going to damage me. But when the public found out about these cases, because they understand it better than he does, he has no idea what these cases are. But when they found out about these cases, you know what they did? My poll numbers went up, way up. You know that because you're reporting it.
Facts.
And we took in more money in the last 2 weeks
Facts.
than we've ever taken in the history of any campaign. I don't think any campaign has ever taken. Hundreds of millions of dollars came pouring in because the public knows it's a scam and it's a guy that's after his political opponent because he can't win fair and square.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden, you have said, quote, Donald Trump and his MAGA Republicans are determined to destroy American democracy. Do you believe that the tens of millions of Americans who are likely to vote for President Trump will be voting against American democracy?
The more they know about what he's done, yes. The more they know about what he's done. And there's a lot more coming. He's got a lot of cases down the road coming around. He's got a whole range of issues he has to face. I don't know what the juries will do, but I do know he has a real problem. And so the fact that, could you ever think you heard any president say that I'm going to seek retribution? Do you ever hear any presidents say that I thought Hitler had some good ideas? What got me involved to run in the first place after my son had died, I decided in Iraq, because of Iraq, I said I wasn't going to run again until I saw what happened in Charlottesville, Virginia. People coming out of the woods carrying swastikas on torches, and singing the same anti-Semitic bile they sang when back in Germany. And and the young woman got killed. I spoke to the mother, and they asked him. They said, "What do you think of those people? The ones who got killed, the one who tried to stop it, and the ones," he said, "I think they're fine people on both sides." What American president would ever say Nazis coming out of fields carrying torches, singing the same anti-Semitic bile, carrying swastikas were fine people? This is a guy who says Hitler's done some good things. I'd like to know what they are. The good things Hitler's done, that's what he said. This guy has no sense of American democracy.
President Trump.
That was a good
Jake,
comeback,
both
though.
of you know that story has been totally wiped out, because when you see the sentence, it said 100% exoneration on this. So he just keeps it going. He says he ran because of Charlottesville. He didn't run because of Charlottesville. He ran because it was his last chance. He's not equipped to be president. You know it, and I know it. It's ridiculous. We have a debate. We're trying to justify his presidency. His presidency is without question the worst president, the worst presidency in the history of our country. We shouldn't be having a debate about it. There's nothing to debate. He made up the Charlottesville story, and you'll see it's debunked all over the place. Every reasonable anchor has debunked it. And just the other day, it came out where it was fully debunked. It's a nonsense story. He knows that, and he didn't run because of Charlottesville. He used that as an excuse to run.
President Biden.
And debunked. It happened. All you have to do is listen to what was said at the time. And the idea that somehow that's the only reason I ran because I was worried a guy like this guy could get elected. If he thought they were good people coming out of that forest, carrying those woods, carrying those torches, then he didn't deserve to be president. Didn't deserve to be president.
Forest in the woods?
And the idea
Really?
We saw the man carrying those torches that was burning, though.
We saw
That's
with our
fast.
own eyes. We saw what happened on January 6th.
Woods?
We saw the people breaking through the windows. We saw people occupying his own vice president. Look, there's a reason why 40 of his 44 top cabinet officers refused to endorse him this time. His vice president hasn't endorsed him this time. So why? Why? They know him well. They serve with him. Why are they not endorsing him?
Talk your talk, President.
We're going to be right back with more from the CNN presidential debate.
Hey, we can talk about some of these things. The people that's out there in the comments, thank you for tuning in with us.
Yeah, man. For
What
sure.
are your thoughts on some of that? What are your thoughts, okay?
Man, he was tripping up a whole lot. I'll tell you that. And I didn't like that first beginning where, like he was kind of stuttering. I mean, well, he did mumble a whole lot, but man, he was just looking real bad. And then I guess he gained a little ground. I'm talking about Biden. He gained a little ground or whatever. But man, I'm telling you, bro, I don't know.
Well,
I don't know. What do you think? What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts?
I would say shout out to Oman that just jumped on. But I would say they both are doing what they supposed to do. We can't just jump on President Joe Biden. Yeah, he's mumbled, but we could understand it. We could understand him when he was talking. When he's passionate about his son and the death, he is clear. I see that fire in him. He's ready for that debate. Other things, we saw that they saved him at one point when he was mumbling. He looked like he lost his train of thought.
Of course,
and then they went
he did.
Yes, and then they went into another question. But Trump was ready to answer that question when he said, "Will you support? Do you support these guys, the Proud Boys and everything?" And then the reporter messed up and jumped right in. Now, I just want to see accountability. I think President Trump should have took accountability for January 6th. We all know it was a bad thing for American history. That's it. Just took
But
some
did,
type of accountability.
so you're saying he gave the whistle for that? Is that what you're trying to say? Trump?
What you mean?
He blew
Started
the
it?
whistle. Yes, he blew the whistle and said, "Hey, y'all need to come on up here and do what you do." Is that what you're saying?
Well, they had intel. He did say they had intel to that all these people were coming. We saw him give a speech up there. We should go there. We should go there. If we, that means I'm gonna be there too. That's saying let's go there. He can't control all of that happened though. All of that happened. No,
yeah.
Well, he should have took some type of accountability. That's it. We still, if you the commander in chief, if you're out there giving that, then
what do you want him to say? What would appease you?
Look,
congregation, y'all let us know. What would appease you? Because January 6th, that's what we're talking about, right?
Yes, take some accountability.
That's significant. That's
100% is
to a lot of people.
Yes,
yeah.
Yes. So I would like for him to just take some accountability. I can't put the words in his mouth, but he did. Renata, if I'm pronouncing it wrong, I appreciate you. Brazil is in the house today. That's what's up. But I will say this too, as far as the immigration. Now, I think President Trump, former President Trump, was getting President Biden, okay? Because he's harder, stricter on the borders. And people, okay, shout out Jesse Lee Peterson. Okay.
Oh my goodness.
Okay. I wore it today.
Going up.
I wore it today. Shout out Jesse Lee Peterson. Okay. From the Crimson Brothers Network. But
we back at it. We back at it.
Okay, let's go.
Let's do it.
First terms, and you'd certainly face again in a second term. President Biden, while Black unemployment dropped to a record low under your presidency, Black families still earn far less than white families. Black mothers are still 3 times more likely to die from pregnancy-related causes, and Black Americans are imprisoned at 5 times the rate of white Americans. What do you say to Black voters who are disappointed that you haven't made more progress?
They acknowledge they made a lot of progress, number one. The fact of the matter is there's more small Black businesses that have been started than any time in history. Number two, the wages of Black unemployment is the lowest level it's been in a long, long time. Number three, we're trying to provide housing for Black Americans and dealing with the segregation that exists among these corporations that collude to keep people out of their houses. And in addition to that, we find that the impact on the choice that Black families have to make relative to childcare is incredibly difficult. When we did the first major piece of legislation in the past, I was able to reduce Black childcare costs. I cut them in half. We got to make sure we provide for childcare costs. We got to make sure, because when you provide those childcare protections, you increase economic growth because more people can be in the job market. So there's more to be done, considerably more to be done. But we've done a great deal so far, and I'm not letting up, and they know it.
You have 49 seconds left. What do you say to Black voters who are disappointed with the progress so far?
I say I don't blame them for being disappointed. Inflation is still hurting them badly. For example, I provided for the idea that any Black family first-time home buyer should get a $10,000 tax credit to be able to buy their first home so they can get started. I made sure that we're in a situation where all those Black families and those Black individuals who had to take out student loans that were ballooning, that if they were engaged in nursing, doctor, and anything having to do with volunteerism, if they paid their bills for 10 years on their student debt, all the rest is forgiven after 10 years. Millions have benefited from that. And we're going to do a whole lot more for Black families.
Thank you, President Trump.
And he caused the inflation. He's blaming inflation, and he's right, it's been very bad. He caused the inflation, and it's killing Black families and Hispanic families and just about everybody. Well, it's killing people. They can't buy groceries anymore. They can't. You look at the cost of food where it's doubled and tripled and quadrupled. They can't live. They're not living anymore. He caused this inflation. I gave him a country with essentially no inflation. It was perfect. It was so good. All he had to do is leave it alone. He destroyed it with his Green New scam and all this money that's being thrown out the window. He caused inflation. As sure as you're sitting there, the fact is that his big kill on the black people is the millions of people that he's allowed to come in through the border. They're taking black jobs now, and it could be 18, it could be 19, and even 20 million people. They're taking black jobs, and they're taking Hispanic jobs, and you haven't seen it yet, but you're going to see something that's going to be the worst in our history.
Thank you. President Biden?
Rebuttal. Let's hear it.
When I became president, you know why? The economy was flat on its back. 15% unemployment. He decimated the economy, absolutely decimated the economy. That's why there was no inflation at the time. There were no jobs. We provided thousands of millions of jobs for individuals who are in all communities, including minority communities. We made sure that they have health insurance. We have covered, if the ACA has increased, I made sure that they're $8,000 per person in a family to get written off for the health care. But this guy wants to eliminate that. They tried 50 times. He wants to get rid of the ACA again. And they're going to try again if they win. You find ourselves in a position where the idea that we're not doing any, we put more police on the street than any administration has. He wants to cut the cops. We're providing for equity and making sure people have a shot to make it. There's a lot going on, but in inflation, he caused it by his tremendous malfeasance in the way he handled the pandemic.
Thank you. Another persistent
They should
challenge
let him
is the
respond
climate
to that.
crisis.
They should let him
2023 was
respond.
the hottest year in recorded history, and communities across the country are confronting the devastating effects of extreme heat, intensifying wildfires, stronger hurricanes, and rising sea levels. Former President Trump, you've vowed to end your opponent's climate initiatives, but will you take any action as president to slow the climate crisis?
Well, let me just go back to what he said about the police,
Good.
how close the police are to him. Almost every police group in the nation from every state is supporting Donald J. Trump, almost every police group. And what he's done to the black population is horrible, including the fact that for 10 years he called them super predators. We can't, in the 1990s, we can't forget that. Super predators was his name, and he called it to them for 10, and they've taken great offense at it.
I thought
And
that
now we
was
see it
Hillary
happening.
Clinton. I
But
thought that
when
was
they see
Hillary
what I
Clinton.
did for criminal justice reform and for the historically black colleges and universities, where I
Facts.
funded them and got them all funded, and the opportunity zones with Tim, as you know, Tim Scott was incredible. He did a great job, great senator from South Carolina. He came to me with the idea, and it was a great idea. It's one of the most successful economic development acts ever in the country, opportunity zones. And the biggest beneficiary are blacks. And that's why we have the best numbers with them in maybe ever. They're saying ever. I read this morning where ever, the best numbers. He's lost much of the black population because he's done a horrible job for black people. He's also done a horrible job for Hispanics. But wait till you see these millions of people pouring into our country, and they're going to take the jobs, and it's already started, and you haven't seen anything yet. It's a disaster.
You've 38 seconds
Let's hear
left. President Trump, will you take any action as president to slow the climate crisis?
So I want absolutely immaculate clean water, and I want absolutely clean air, and we had it. We had H2O. We had the best numbers ever, and we were using all forms of energy, all forms, everything. And yet, during my 4 years, I had the best environmental numbers ever. And my top environmental people gave me that statistic just before I walked on the stage, actually.
Let's help Flint, Michigan then. Let's
I don't
clean
know
up
where
that
the hell
water.
he's been. The
Come on.
idea that anything he said is true. I passed the most extensive climate change legislation in history. We find ourselves, and by the way, black colleges, I came up with $15 billion for HBCUs, historic black universities and colleges, because they don't have the kind of contributors that they have.
15 billion?
Build these laboratories and the like. Any black student is capable in college of doing any white student can do. They just don't have the money, but now they'll be able to get those jobs in high tech. We're in a situation where the idea that he is claiming to have done something that had the cleanest water, He hadn't done a damn thing for the environment. He pulled out of the Paris Peace Accord, Climate Accord. I immediately joined it because if we reach 1.5 degrees Celsius at any one point, there's no way back. The only existential threat to humanity is climate change. And he didn't do a damn thing about it. He must undo all that I've done.
The Paris Accord was going to cost us $1 trillion, and China nothing, and Russia nothing, and India nothing. It was a ripoff of the United States. And I ended it because I didn't want to waste that money because they treat us horribly. We were the only ones who was costing us money. Nobody else was paying into it. And it was a disaster. But everything that he said just now, I'll give you an example. I heard him say before insulin. I'm the one that got the insulin down for the seniors. I took care of the seniors. What he's doing is destroying all of our medical programs because the migrants coming in, they want everybody. And look, I have the biggest heart on the stage. I guarantee you that. And I want to take care of people, but we're destroying our country. They're taking over our schools, our hospitals, and they're going to be taking over Social Security. He is destroying Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid.
Mm-hmm.
The idea is that we, in fact, we were the only ones of consequence who were not members of the Paris Accord. How can we do anything? We're not able to, the United States can't get its under control. One of the largest polluters in the world, number one. We're making significant progress. By 2035, we will have cut pollution in half. We have made significant progress.
Really?
And we're continuing to make progress. We set up a climate corps for thousands of young people to learn how to deal with climate, just like the Peace Corps. And we're moving in directions that are going to significantly change the elements of cause of pollution. But the idea that he claims that he has the biggest heart up here and he's really concerned about pollution and about climate, I've not seen any indication of that. And by the way, with regard to prescription drugs, one company agreed that they would reduce the price to $35, which I was calling for, one, voluntarily. I made sure every company in the world, every pharmaceutical company, cannot have to pay.
Thank you.
And by the way,
so every day, millions of Americans struggle just to make ends meet. For many older Americans, Social Security provides a critical lifeline. President Biden, if nothing is done to Social Security, seniors will see their benefits cut in just over 10 years. Will you name tonight one specific step that you're willing to take to keep Social Security solvent?
yes, make the very wealthy begin to pay their fair share. Right now, everybody making under $170,000 pays 6% of their income, of their paycheck, every single time they get a paycheck from the time the first one they get when they're 18 years old. The idea that they're going to, I'm proposing that everybody, they pay, the millionaires pay 1%. 1%. So no one I would not raise the cost of Social Security for anybody under $400,000. After that, I began to make the wealthy begin to pay their fair share by increasing from 1% beyond to be able to guarantee the program for life.
So you still have 82 seconds left. Are there any other measures that you think that would be able to help keep
Is it
Social
that many
Security
people?
solvent, or is
That can't
one
be the
that-
answer to every question,
That
though.
will keep it solvent.
Yeah.
But the biggest
Every
thing I'll do is
question for
we
years.
defeat this man because he wants to get rid of Social Security. He thinks there's plenty to cut in Social Security. He's wanting to cut Social Security and Medicare both times. And that's what. And if you look at the program put forward by the House Republican caucus that I believe supports, is in fact want to cut it as well. The idea that we don't need to protect our seniors is ridiculous. And by the way, the American public has greater health care coverage today than ever before. And on the ACA, as I said, you're in a circumstance where 400,000 people, 40 million people would not have insurance because they have a pre-existing condition. Only thing that allows them to have that insurance is the fact that they, in fact, are part of the ACA. And by the way, the other thing is we're in a situation where we talk about education for Black communities. I've raised the amount of money for Pell Grants, another $8,000. So anybody making under $70,000 a year are going to be able to get $15,000 toward their tuition. He just doesn't know what he's talking about.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump.
So I've dealt with politicians all my life. I've been on this side of the equation for the last 8 years. I've never seen anybody lie like this guy. He lies. I've never seen it. He can look you in the face. So many other things too. And we mentioned the laptop. We mentioned Russia, Ukraine. Everything he does is a lie. It's misinformation and disinformation. The losers and suckers story that he made up is a total lie on the military. It's a disgrace. But Social Security, he's destroying it because millions of people are pouring into our country, and they're putting them onto Social Security. They're putting them onto Medicare, Medicaid. They're putting them in our hospitals. They're taking the place of our citizens. What they're doing to the VA, to our veterans, is unbelievable. Our veterans are living in the street, and these people are living in luxury hotels. He doesn't know what he's doing, and it's really coming back. I've never seen such anger in our country before.
It's true. That part.
The idea that veterans are not being taken care of. I told you before. And by the way, when I said suckers and losers, he acknowledged after that he fired that general. That general got fired because he's the one that acknowledged that that's what he said. He was the one standing with Trump when he said it. Number one. Number two, the idea that we're going to be in a situation where all these millions and millions, the way he talks about it, illegal aliens are coming into the country and taking away our jobs. There's a reason why we have the fastest growing economy in the world, the reason why we have the most successful economy in the world. We're doing better than any other nation in the world. And by the way, those 15 Nobel laureates he talked about being phony, those 15 Nobel laureates, economists, they all said that if Trump is reelected, we're likely to have a recession. And inflation is going to increasingly go up. And by the way, worst president in history, 159 presidential scholars voted him the worst president in the history of the United States of America.
President Biden, thank you so much. Let's turn to the cost of child care, which many American families struggle to afford. President Trump, both you and President Biden have tried to address this issue, but the average cost of child care in this country has risen to more than $11,000 a year per child. For many families, the cost of child care for 2 children is more than their rent. In your second term, what would you do to make child care more affordable?
Just to go back, the general got fired because he was no good. And if he said that, that's why he made it up. But we have 19 people that said I didn't say it, and they're very highly respected, much more so than him. The other thing is, he doesn't fire people. He never fired people. I've never seen him fire anybody. I did fire a lot. I fired Comey because he was no good. I fired a lot of the top people at the FBI, drained the swamp. They were no good. Not easy to fire people. You'd pay a price for it, but they were no good. I inherited these people. I didn't put them there. I didn't put Comey there. He was no good. I fired him. This guy hasn't fired anybody. He never fires. He should have fired every military man that was involved with that the Afghanistan horror show, the most embarrassing.
That might be, that's facts, but he appeasing to his base right now.
Anybody? Did you fire?
That's not the question.
That's on the border. That's allowed us to have the worst border in the history of the world.
Yeah.
Did anybody get fired for allowing 18 million people, many from prisons, many from mental institutions? Did you fire anybody that allowed our country to be destroyed? Joe, our country is being destroyed as you and I sit up here and waste a lot of time on this debate. This shouldn't be a debate. He is the worst president. He just said about me because I said it. But look, he's the worst president in the history of our country. He's destroyed our country. Now all of a sudden he's trying to get a little tough on the border. He came out with a nothing deal, and it reduced it a little bit, like this much. It's insignificant.
Yeah.
He wants open borders. He wants our country to either be destroyed or he wants to pick up those people as voters. And I don't think
I think that's what it is, bro.
If he wins this election, our country doesn't have a chance, not even a chance, of coming out of this rut. We probably won't have a country left anymore. That's how bad it is. He's the worst in history by far.
Thank you, President Trump. President Biden.
Wow,
We're the most admired country in the world. We're the United States of America.
We still
There's
are.
nothing beyond our capacity. We have the finest military in the history of the world. The
Yes, that's
finest
true.
in the history of the world. No one thinks we're weak. No one wants to screw around with us. Nobody. Number one. Number two, the idea that we're talking about worst presidents. I wasn't joking. Look it up. Go online. 159 or 58, don't hold me the exact number, presidential historians, they've had meetings and they voted who's the worst
The American people don't care about that right
one
there.
from best to worst.
Come
They
on.
said he was the worst in all of American history. That's
They
a
both
fact.
being petty
That's
right
not-
now
that's
about
not
this part.
conjecture. He can argue they're wrong, but that's what they voted. The idea that he is doing anything to deal with child care.
Talk about the facts, man. Come on.
Child care. We should significantly increase the child care tax credit. We should significantly increase the availability of men or single parents to be able to go back to work. And we should encourage businesses to have.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump, the question was
cut 'em
about
off.
what would you do to
Neither
make
one of
childcare
them
more
answered the
affordable? If you want
question.
to take your minute.
Neither
Just so
one
you
of them.
understand, we have polling, we have other things that they rate him the worst because what he's done is so bad. And they rate me, I'll show you, I will show you. And they rate me one of the best, okay? And if I'm given another 4 years, I will be the best. I think I'll be the best. Nobody's ever created an economy like us. Nobody ever cut taxes like us. He's the only one I know. He wants to raise your taxes by 4 times. He wants to raise everybody's taxes by 4 times. He wants the Trump tax cuts to expire. So everybody, including the two of you, are going to pay 4 to 5 times. Nobody ever heard of this before. All my life, I'd grow up and I'd see politicians talking about cutting taxes. When we cut taxes, as I said, we did more business. Apple and all these companies, they were bringing money back into our country. The worst president in history by far, and everybody knows it.
President Biden?
Look, the fact of the matter is that he's dead wrong about, he's increased the.
So everybody
he's
wrong,
increased-
huh?
he
Is that
will
what you're
increase the taxes on middle-class people. I said I'd never raise a tax on anybody making less than $400,000. I didn't. But this tariff is 10% tariffs. Everything coming in the country, you know what the economists say? That's going to cost the average American $2,500 a year more because they're going to have to pay the difference in food and all the things that were imported. Number two, he's in a situation where he talks about how he has not raised, he's somehow helped the middle class. Middle class have been devastated by you. Now you want a new tax cut of $5 trillion over the next 10 years, which is going to fundamentally bankrupt the country. You had the largest deficit of any president in American history, number one. Number two, you have not, in fact, made any contact, any progress with China. We are the lowest trade deficit with China since 2010.
Thank you,
were at the
President
highest.
Biden.
You lost.
Thank you, President Biden. Let's discuss an epidemic impacting millions of Americans that both of you
Which
have made a
is-
top priority in your
Let's hear
first
it.
term, the opioid crisis. And for both of you, the number of overdose deaths in this country has gone up. Under your term, it went up. Under your term, it has gone up. Former President Trump, despite the efforts that both of you have made, more than 100,000 Americans are dying from overdoses every year, primarily from fentanyl and other opioids. What will you do to help Americans right now in the throes of addiction who are struggling to get the treatment they need?
To finish up,
You got to say something about
we
the
now
border.
have the largest deficit in the history of our country under this guy. We have the largest deficit with China. He gets paid by China. He's a Manchurian candidate. He gets money from China. We have, so I think he's afraid to deal with them or something. But do you notice he never took out my tariffs because we bring in so much money with the tariffs that I imposed on China. He never took them away. He can't because it's too much money. It's tremendous. And we saved our steel industries and there was more to come, but he hasn't done that. But he hasn't cut the tariffs because he can't, because it's too much money. But he's got the largest deficit in the history of our country, and he's got the worst situation with China. China's going to own us if you keep allowing them to do what they're doing to us as a country. They are killing us as a country, Joe, and you can't let that happen. You're destroying our country.
So, President Trump, you have 67 seconds left. The question was, what are you going to do to help Americans in the throes of addiction right now who are struggling to get the treatment they need?
Jake, we were doing very well at addiction until the COVID came along. We had the 2.5, almost 3 years of like nobody's ever had before, any country, in every way. And then we had to get tough. And it was the drugs pouring across the border. It started to increase. We got great equipment. We bought the certain dog that's the most incredible thing that you've ever seen, the way they can spot it. We did a lot. And we were getting very low numbers, very, very low numbers. Then he came along. The numbers, have you seen the numbers now? It's not only the 18 million people that I believe is even low because the gotaways, they don't even talk about gotaways. But the numbers of the amount of drugs and human trafficking in women coming across our border, the worst thing I've ever seen, at numbers that nobody's ever seen under him because the border's so bad.
So
But
he's
the
making his
number
point.
of drugs coming across our border now is the largest we've ever
It
had by
ties
far.
it
President Trump, thank
in
you,
two, but he
President
didn't
Biden.
answer the question.
Fentanyl and the byproducts of fentanyl
Let me
went
hear what
down
he's saying.
for a while.
Yeah.
And I wanted to make sure we use the machinery that can detect fentanyl, these big machines that roll over everything that comes across the border. And it costs a lot of money. That was part of this deal we put together, this bipartisan deal. More fentanyl machines, more be able to detect drugs, more numbers of agents, more numbers of all the people at the border. And when we had that deal done, he called his Republican colleagues, said, don't do it. It's going to hurt me politically. No, he never argued it's not a good bill. It's a really good bill. We need those machines. We need those machines. And we're coming down very hard in every country in Asia in terms of precursors for fentanyl. And Mexico is working with us to make sure they don't have the technology to be able to put it together. That's what we have to do. We need those machines.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump, and again, the question is about Americans
Come
in the throes of
on,
addiction
both of
right now,
y'all.
struggling to get the treatment
They
they
got to
need.
get it right now.
Because this
We talking about
does pertain to
treatment.
it.
Yes.
He ended Remain in Mexico. He ended catch and release. I made it catch and release in Mexico, not catch and release here. We had so many things that we had done, hard negotiations with Mexico, and I got it all for nothing. It's just like when you have a hostage, we always pay $6 billion for a hostage. Every time we say a hostage. Now we have a hostage, a Wall Street Journal reporter, I think a good guy, and he's over there because Putin is laughing at this guy, probably asking for billions of dollars for the reporter. I will have him out very quickly as soon as I take office. Before I take office, I said by literally
They don't
as
want to
soon as
answer
I
the
win the
question.
election, I will have that reporter out. He should have had him out a long time ago, but Putin's probably asking for billions and billions of dollars because this guy pays it every time. We had 2 cases where we paid $6 billion for 5 people. I got 58 people out and I paid essentially nothing.
Thank you, President Trump. Dana?
Let's turn to
Okay.
concerns that voters have.
They neither
about
one of them
each you.
answered.
President Biden,
Throw
you
that
would be
question away.
86 at the end of your second term. How do you address concerns about your capability to handle the toughest job in the world well into
Age.
your 80s?
Yep.
Well,
Age.
first of all, I spent half my career being criticized being the youngest person in politics. I was the second youngest person ever elected to the United States Senate, and now I'm the oldest. This guy's 3 years younger and a lot less competent. I think that just look at the record. Look at what I've done. Look how I've turned around the horrible situation he left me. As I said, 15 million new jobs, 800,000 manufacturing jobs, more investment in America, over billions of dollars in private investment in enterprises that we are growing. By the way, we brought an awful lot of people. Well, the whole idea of computer chips, we used to have 40% of the market. We invented those chips, and we lost it because he was sending people to find the cheapest jobs overseas and to bring home a product.
Come on, let's stick with your
I
age.
went to South
Stick
Korea.
with your age.
I convinced Samsung to invest
let him keep
billions
going.
of dollars here in the United States. And guess what? Those fabs, they call that to build these chips, those fabs pay over $100,000. You don't need a college degree for them. And there's billions, about $40 billion already being invested and being built right now in the United States, creating significant jobs for Americans from all over the world.
President Biden, you have 40 seconds left. Would you like to add anything?
Yeah, I would. The idea that somehow we are this failing country. I never heard a president talk like this before. We're the envy of the world. Name me a single major country president who wouldn't trade places with the United States of America for all our problems and all our opportunities. We're
Just
the most
one.
progressive country in the world in getting things done. We're the strongest country in the world. We're a country in the world who keeps our word, and everybody trusts us. All of our allies and those who he coddles up to, from Kim Jong-un, he sends love letters to, and Putin, etc.
What was the question?
Around with us.
What was the
Thank
question?
you. Former President Trump, to
Both
follow
of
up, you
y'all.
would be 82 at the end of your second term.
Jeez.
What do you say to voters who have concerns
We're
about
talking about
your
age.
capabilities to
Yes,
serve?
thank you.
Well, I took 2 tests, cognitive tests. I aced them, both of them, as you know. We made it public. He took none. I'd like to see him take one, just
That's what
one,
I'm saying.
a real easy one.
You see how he
Like,
went
go
straight
through
to
the
the
first
answer?
5 questions. He couldn't do it. But I took 2 cognitive tests. I took physical exams every year. And, we knock on wood wherever we may have wood. that I'm in very good health. I just won 2 club championships, not even
You
senior.
didn't catch that,
2
Kane.
regular club championships. To do that, you have to be quite smart, and you have to be able to hit the ball a long way, and I do it. He doesn't do it. He can't hit a ball 50 yards. He challenged me to a golf match. He can't hit a ball 50 yards. I think I'm in very good shape. I feel that I'm as in good a shape as I was
See how he's
25,
answering?
30 years ago. Actually, I'm probably a little bit lighter, but I'm in as good a shape as I was years ago. I feel very good. I feel the same. But I was willing to take a cognitive test. And you know what? If I didn't do well, I aced them. Dr. Ronnie Jackson, who's a great guy when he was White House doctor. And then I took another one, a similar one. And one of them said they've never seen anybody ace him.
Thank you. President Biden?
That's
You can
President
see he is
Trump being
6'5"
Trump.
and only 223 pounds or 235 pounds. Well, you said 6'4", 200. Well, anyway, that's
Talking about his
what
weight now?
Anyway, just take a look at what he says he is, and take a look at what he is. Look, I'd be happy to have a driving contest with him. The reason I got my handicap, which when I was vice president, down to a 6.
Ooh.
But by the way, I told you before, I'm happy to play golf if you carry your own bag. Think you can do it?
Oh, let's go.
What is this?
Go,
I was
go.
What is
handicapped.
this?
Let's go.
Never. But I have, you know, how many?
I've seen you swing. I know you swing.
Okay, let's
not act like children.
President Trump, we're going to
21
turn
Let's not act like children.
You
to
are
a
a child.
specific concern
Uh-oh.
that voters have
Wow.
about you. Will you pledge tonight that
Uh-oh.
once all legal challenges have been exhausted, that you will accept the results of this election, regardless of who wins, and you will say right now that political violence in any form is unacceptable?
Well, I shouldn't have to say that, but of course I believe that. It's
Go ahead.
totally unacceptable.
Go
and
ahead.
You would see my statements that I made on Twitter at the time, and also my statement that I made in the Rose Garden. You would say it's one of the strongest statements you've ever seen. In addition to the speech I made in front of, I believe, the largest crowd I've ever spoken to. And I will tell you, nobody ever talks about that. They talk about a relatively small number of people that went to the Capitol, and in many cases were ushered in by the police. And as Nancy Pelosi said, it was her responsibility, not mine. She said that loud and clear. But the answer is, if the election is fair, free, and I want that more than anybody. And I'll tell you something. I wish he was a great president, because I wouldn't be here right now. I'd be at one of my many places enjoying myself. I wouldn't be under indictment because I wouldn't have been his political opponent, because he indicted me because I was his opponent. I wish he was a great president. I would rather have that. I wouldn't be here. I don't mind being here. But the only reason I'm here is he's so bad as a president that I'm going to make America great again. We're going to make America great again. We're a failing nation right now. We're a seriously failing nation. And we're a failing nation because of him. His policies are so bad. His military policies are insane. They're insane. These are wars that will never end with him. He will drive us into World War III, and we're closer to World War III than anybody can imagine. We are very, very close to World War III, and he's driving us there. And Kim Jong-un and President Xi of China, Kim Jong-un of North Korea, all of these, Putin, they don't respect him. They don't fear him. They have nothing going with this gentleman, and he's going to drive us into World War III.
You want a World War III.
No, we don't.
Let him follow and win, and let Putin say, do what you want, NATO. Just do what you want. There's a thing called Article 5. An attack on one is attack on all, and required response. The idea, I can't think of a single major leader in the world who wouldn't trade places with the job I've done and what they've done. Because we are a powerful nation. We have wonderful people. It's because of the people, not me. It's because of the American people. They're capable of anything, and they step up when they're needed. And right now, we're needed. We're needed to protect the world because our own safety is at stake. And again, you want to have a war, just let Putin go ahead and take Kyiv, make sure they move on, see what happens in Poland, Hungary, and other places along that border. Then you have a war.
President Trump, as I come back to you for a follow-up, the question was, will you accept the results of this election, regardless of who wins?
Just to finish what he said, if I might, Russia, they took a lot of land from Bush. They took a lot of land from Obama and Biden. They took no land, nothing from Trump, nothing. He knew not to do it. You're not going to play games with me. He knew that. I got along with him very well, but he knew not to play games. He took nothing from me. But now he's going to take the whole thing from this man right here. That's a war that should have never started. It would have never started ever with me. And he's going to take Ukraine. And, you know, you asked me a question before, would you do this? He's got us in such a bad position right now with Ukraine and Russia, because Ukraine's not winning that war. He said, I will never settle until such time. They're running out of people. They're running out of soldiers. They've lost so many people. It's so sad.
That's crazy.
They've lost so
Both
many
of them.
people, and they've
Yes.
lost those
Yeah.
gorgeous
That's crazy.
cities with the golden
Yes.
domes that are 1,000 years old, all because of him and stupid decisions. Russia would have never attacked if I were
President Trump,
president.
the question was, will you accept the results of the election, regardless of who wins?
He
yes
he
or
answered.
no,
He
please?
answered.
Yeah,
If
yeah.
it's a fair and legal and good
If it's a
election,
fair, just say yes.
absolutely. I would have much rather
Yeah, he already
accepted
answered.
these, but the fraud and everything else was ridiculous. And if you want, we'll have a news conference on it in a week.
You should
Or
just
we'll
say
have another
yes.
one of these on
Not
in
if
a
it's
week.
fair.
But I will absolutely.
He just
There's
said it.
nothing I'd rather do. It would be much easier for me to do that than I'm running again.
said it,
I wasn't
absolutely.
really going to run until I saw the horrible job he did. He's destroying our country. I would be very happy to be someplace else in a nice location someplace. And again, no
I
indictments,
didn't like that if.
no political opponent stuff, because it's the only way he thinks he can win. But unfortunately, it's driven up my numbers and driven them
You
up
just
to a
never
very
know
high
what
level
happened.
because the people understand it.
I'm
Let's
making
see what your
excuses,
numbers
Kane.
are
Come on.
when this election is over.
I'm saying you don't know.
Let's see.
What do you know?
You're a whiner. When you
It's
lost
fair.
the first time,
That's it.
you continued, you appealed and appealed to courts all across the country. Not one single court in America
They've been after
said
him
any
since
of
he
your claims
got
had
elected.
any merit, state or local. None.
He's speaking
But
facts
you
right now.
continue to provoke this lie about somehow there's all this misrepresentation, all this stealing. There is no evidence of that at all. And I tell you what, I doubt whether you'll accept it because you're such a whiner. The idea, if you lose again, you accepting anything, you can't stand the loss. Something snapped in you when you lost the last time.
We'll be right back
Wow.
with
Good.
more from
Go
the
to the
CNN
break.
presidential debate. live
When
Ah.
he said if, when former President Trump said if, he is sowing that seed of, okay, maybe it wasn't a fair, maybe it's not. When we vote, when America votes for the president and the results come in, we're gonna accept it, unless it's some.
It doesn't. Okay,
Unless
at
it's
the
some
beginning, don't you
crazy,
remember at the beginning of 2016
about what?
when Trump
What?
they were all saying it was Russian collusion and all of that.
Yes,
Don't you remember
yes,
all
I
that?
remember that. Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
but
Kane.
they put that all on him. They put it all on
Yeah.
him. That he was a part
Right.
of that. Then they found out it was nothing.
It was nothing. That's true. That part was true
So
too.
so
That part was
so
true too.
so what?
But
So what are you saying? Tell me
but
what you're
even
saying. then.
even saying that, when he said, when she asked that question, would you accept? The first time he already answered it. Yes, I would.
Yeah, he did. He did.
And then after they had their back and forth, she asked again. And then
Because
he
it wasn't
said,
good enough for
if-
her. It
I
wasn't
know
good
that was
enough for her.
ridiculous. Well, this
Yeah.
gonna be, we're gonna see a lot of clips, and people, you pay
Mhm.
attention.
Mhm.
He said, if it is
Yep.
a fair, no, he should have just said yes. He don't have to sow that seed because people are gonna concentrate on the wording. That if sows the seed of, if I don't win this time,
There's
it's
a
gonna
doubt.
be doubt.
You just
It's
saying
a
there's a
doubt.
doubt.
Yes,
Yeah.
that is a
I see
doubt.
what you're saying.
So
I see
let's
what you're
just go
saying.
ahead and say yes, yes. Now, I didn't like this part, okay? As far as
What?
when neither one of them were answering the question. I don't think they had an answer to child care and what to do. They can answer something
yeah,
else, but they just
yeah.
talked about everything. And then the opium and the fentanyl.
Yeah, the fentanyl, they ain't had no answer for that.
well,
I mean,
I knew they was gonna say the
Trump was
border,
going
because
towards the
that
border.
ties to the
That's what he
border.
went
Yes,
to.
a lot
But
comes to it.
Biden, what did he do?
No, they didn't.
What
They
did he
didn't
say
have an
about
answer.
it?
They didn't have an
He had
answer.
none.
They didn't have an
He
answer.
started just attacking Trump. That's all he did. He didn't even. He's like, because he didn't have an answer for that. That ain't what he was coached earlier.
Right, right.
See
Well,
what I'm saying?
I just want us, and what we always would do, people that's there, if you're still with us, is
Mhm.
be straight down the line. Okay.
Yeah.
Even though I jump up with my shirt on and everything, I still want to conduct business straight down the line.
Yeah.
President Biden, answer the question.
Yes.
Former President
I agree.
Trump, answer the question. I don't
I
have
agree.
time. We don't have time. The American people don't have time talking about
Yeah.
I can swing better than you. I'm more virile than you. But that wood joke, did you catch that?
Mhm.
If you can knock on wood, if you got wood. Whoa, hold on. That's Trump being Trump. Let's go. Let's go.
Baby, for sure.
Come on.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, man. Yeah, I agree, man. Yeah, it's crazy. Now, I'm pretty sure they probably trying to wrap it up or whatever. But overall, I mean, I guess if you had to pick size, congregation, y'all can chime in too in the comments too. If you had to pick size right now, where we at? Are we Biden? Are we Trump? Who winning this? Not saying who will win it overall, but who's winning the conversation? You know, the debate that's going back and forth. Let us know, man. What's up?
I will say this. I think, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I think they're gonna need to have another debate. That
Oh yeah, they need a second one.
They definitely need one. Biden is handling himself well. I know, and people, you might not agree with me on this, and I'll say it, and you can beat me down, but some of people will watch it. They back? Okay.
Yeah, we back.
We'll let it go. Let's go.
Yeah.
2 minutes.
We've made significant progress from the debacle that was left by President Trump in his last term. We find ourselves in a situation where, number one, we have to make sure that we have a fair tax system. I ask anyone out there in the audience or anyone out watching this debate, do you think the tax system is fair? The fact is that I said nobody even making under $400,000 had a single penny increase in their taxes and will not. And if I'm reelected, that'll be the case again. But this guy has increased your taxes because of the deficit. Number one, he's increased inflation because of the debacle he left after the way he handled the pandemic. And he found himself in a position where he now wants to tax you more by putting a 10% tariff on everything that comes into the United States of America. What I did, when, for example, he wants to get rid of the ability of Medicare for us to be able to negotiate drug pricing with the big pharma companies. Well, guess what? We got it down to $35 for insulin instead of $400. No more than $2,000 for every senior, no matter how much prescription they need. You know what that did? That reduced the federal debt by $160 billion over 10 years because the government doesn't have to pay the exorbitant prices. I'm going to make that available to every senior all along, where it's happening now, and everybody in America. He wants to get rid of that. I'm going to make sure that we have child care. We're going to significantly increase the credits people have for child care. I'm going to make sure we do something about what we're doing on lead pipes and all the things that are causing health problems for people across the country. We're going to continue to fight to bring down inflation and give people a break.
Thank you, President Biden. President Trump, you now have 2 minutes for your closing statement.
Let's see. Let's see what he
Like
says.
so many politicians, this man is just a complainer. He said, we want to do this, we want to do that, we want to get rid of this tax, that tax. But he doesn't do anything. All he does is make our country unsafe by allowing millions and millions of people to pour in. Our military doesn't respect him. We look like fools in Afghanistan. We didn't stop Israel. It was such a horrible thing that would have never happened. It should have never happened. Iran was broke. Anybody that did business with Iran, including China, they couldn't do business with the United States. They all passed. Iran was broke. They had no money for Hamas or Hezbollah, for terror, no money whatsoever. Again, Ukraine should have never happened. He talks about all this stuff, but he didn't do it. For 3.5 years, we're living in hell. We have the Palestinians and we have everybody else rioting all over the place. You talk about Charlottesville. This is 100 times Charlottesville, 1,000 times. The whole country is exploding because of you, because they don't respect you, and they have to respect their president, and they don't respect you throughout the world. What we did was incredible. We rebuilt the military. We got the largest tax cut in history, the largest regulation cut in history. The reason he's got jobs is because I cut the regulations that gave jobs, but he's putting a lot of those regulations back on. All of the things that we've done, nobody's never seen anything like, even from a medical standpoint, right to try, where we can try space-age materials instead of going to Asia or going to Europe and trying to get, when you're terminally ill, Now you can go and you can get something. You sign a document. They've been trying to get it for 42 years. But you know what we did for the military was incredible choice for our soldiers, where our soldiers, instead of waiting for 3 months to see a doctor, can go out and get themselves fixed up and readied up and take care of themselves, and they're living. And that's why I had the highest approval rating in the history of the VA. So all of these things, we're in a failing nation, but it's not going to be failing anymore. We're going to make it great again.
Thank you, former President Trump, President Biden. Stay with us because we have full analysis of this debate. Anderson Cooper and Aaron Burnett starts now on CNN.
The end, man.
I applaud both of them.
Yeah.
I applaud both of them. I just think they definitely need it again. They definitely need to talk again. I can't believe I'm saying this. They both pandered to their base. They both pandered to their base. A lot of filibustering, though. That's what I'm surprised with on both of their accounts.
Yeah.
You know,
and so, I definitely agree with that, man. It's just he was stumbling quite a few times or whatever. And I'm talking about Biden or whatever. And then they were both avoiding certain questions. Certain questions they were avoiding. And I don't know. I don't know how to feel about that. And that's the politician in both. You know what I mean? They just kind of dance around and they just want to attack one another versus attack that issue that was whatever that question was or whatever. And that's what I don't like. And I would tell the congregation too, even though, because that's the reason why we're not playing commentary for the actual news stations, because they will sway you in a certain way. They will talk about it. Those commentators, they will let you know that, like, look, this is better this way or whatever. They will sway you. So my thing is, listen to listen to this debate. If there's another debate, which it should be, pay attention to that. Any type of rallies from both parties.
Yes.
Go. You may not have a chance to go to them, but view them so you can make an informed decision versus going off of the media. The media, certain media, caters to certain candidates.
Right, we know.
It's a money thing. It's a money grab. You know what I'm saying? It's a money thing. So that's what I say, look, watch these, have your own opinion about it. Once it's done, don't listen to what they have to say about it, because they will give you their expert opinion about it. You see what I'm saying? And you have your own mind, and you can determine what you thought about it. You see what I'm saying?
On that aspect, this what I do. Okay. We have our own mind, but I like to look at Fox to see what they're going to say. I look at CNN because you can tell which news stations are biased and be like, man, he did not say it. He did not say that. Oh, wait, come on.
They do that all the time.
They do that,
Yes.
And then you can really get, okay, I was kind of thinking this right here because I see they saying this, they saying this. They never kind of agree. And then you will see that they always say the same talking or whatever that gaslighting word is.
Yes,
so
they do that.
It was
fill in
good.
the blank. They fill in the blanks.
They definitely need to do it again. And one thing, shout out to Brazil, caller at 124, Zoanne. There was a couple of people that was on here, and we appreciate it. Yes.
Yeah.
We was talking about my cowboy hat. I mean, I ain't like that Brokeback Mountain thing. Yeah, okay. I'm ball. Hey, come on.
All good.
Yes,
it's all good, baby.
we're gonna
we
do
hear
it.
it all. We hear it all.
Yeah.
The wall going up, huh?
Yeah. Hey, oh, shout out.
That's what I'm talking about.
We doing it.
Yeah, man. Congregation, y'all got any input? How do y'all feel about the debate? Was it one-sided? Did it was one of our followers that said it was more so Trump or whatever. And some of them were saying, get out the way, Biden, that type thing. And just to hear from Brazil. So that's like a unbiased party, meaning they don't have anything to do. They don't vote. They just see what the news feeds.
Right.
And that's why I like to put this in place where we can listen to what they actually say versus what other people say and how they portray them in the news. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
So yeah, man.
It was good.
Let us know how y'all feel, man, in the comments, man.
Oh,
As always, we do respond and things of that nature. Go ahead, bro.
and one other thing, one thing, real quick, as
Mhm.
far as the climate change, is it a point? The Democrats are always for it, and it seems like, is this a Republican talking point where they're not for the climate change? And
Mm.
he did pull us out. He said we was going to have to pay that $1 trillion because usually United States pays so much as far as supporting NATO and all those things. So as far as climate change, either you're in or you're out.
So this
Do you
green
agree?
deal. So
They
this
say that
green
every
deal.
year. I mean, even
Yeah,
going from
yeah, of
President
course.
Obama, and they always try to put money into we're going to have these greenhouses
Yep.
and all
Elect
of these things, and money is
everywhere,
spent.
right?
Come on, yes.
From what I hear, the electric cars are putting out, destroying the planet just like anything else with the smog from gasoline. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
So I'm just saying. Oh, Zoan said Trump was definitely more prepared with his. Yeah, of
we'll
course.
appreciate. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, we saw the
Definitely.
clarity. We saw the clarity,
Yes.
and like before I got cut
But
off, I said
think
the
about
people
this.
might
Think
beat
about
me.
this.
What's that?
Go ahead. Go
Well,
ahead.
I was saying the people might beat me up on this. Some of the
Well, what I
people,
was
including me,
saying.
was, are we getting?
Uh-huh.
You there? Look, real quick. Some of the people
delay.
were watching this
Yeah.
to see if just the competency, to see if President Biden was still going to be there. President Trump made it a couple of times that he don't know what he's talking about. The statements that he make, we saw him get dazed a couple of times, but then he tried to regroup. So he made it through, and that was good.
Yeah.
He still had his points. He was hitting his topics, but we saw the vigor of Trump. Trump was just Trump.
Yeah, he's being himself.
All himself.
But
Once those hands start moving and everything, he'll go. He can go for another couple of hours.
Yeah. But we're
good.
looking at 81-year-old that we're gonna try to reelect for 4 more years.
Yeah.
What do y'all think about that, congregation? Yeah. What do y'all think? Is that a good look? And if he doesn't make it or something else comes up and he has to step down, then you know who his predecessor is. That's common.
That's affirmative. That's true.
So
That's true.
are you ready for that?
But it's going to be
my
interesting.
thing.
It's going to be interesting to see who, and I think it's going to be a big point for former President Trump, who his running mate will be.
Man, I heard that it was supposed to be announced today, but I don't know
who his running mate will be.
Yeah.
So that'll play a big part, So.
Oh, okay.
Anything else you got to say there,
man?
the Canaanite.
I don't have anything. I'm just curious. Well, just like you said, we do need to have another one, right?
Oh, we're gonna go live.
Prepare.
We're gonna do this. Yes.
Yeah. We definitely, and that, like I said, with them two, they do need to debate again too as well.
Oh yes,
they definitely need to sit back, different questions.
Go back to Camp David and chill out.
Go back to Camp David for a week and drill them because I know that he had like talking points and he memorized certain things, but then when he got up there, it just kind of he lost it or whatever.
Well,
and we noticed.
You would do that.
Guarantee you will see all the memes. You will see all the shorts and things of that nature or whatever, what was going on or whatever. You'll see that.
Yeah.
But however, not to sway you any kind of way, just what he said versus what Trump said. Yeah. That's how you got to look at it.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? And even if you don't trust politicians, you still have to, you still have to, go with what you have. And I would tell everyone, especially for the election in November, I mean, vote anyway. And also think about your local community. Think about your local community. And, if there's a new mayor, if it's time for that, or governor or whatever bill, because that really affects you.
Yes.
If you don't know, that really affects you, and you need to
Mhm.
be part of that, district, whatever, right? Pay attention to that. Go to those little city council meetings and things of that nature. And you'll know those people that you see all those signs up for. You'd be like, don't just put Democrat all the way down or Republican all the way down. Pay attention. Pay attention and make an informed decision. That's all it is. For sure. Guaranteed.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
and what we got?
The great Spalding, thank you.
Appreciate it. The great Spalding. I appreciate it. We appreciate it. Definitely. For
everybody.
sure.
Can you see everybody?
Yeah.
Because give them a shout out for
Mhm.
everybody or whatever that just came in.
Oh, the names. Yeah, I got Grace
just come up.
Spalding. I got Zoanne. I got BL. Shout out to Cheeto. Shout out to Bino Mejia. We got Nate Henderson. We got Anderson. Andy Davidson. I'm sorry. Caller at 124. You brought him up. Earlier. We got if Ruth Wellborn is still up there. We got Renata Macedo, Angela Goena. We got Letitia Oman, Ilmerson. I remember Ilmerson is from Brazil somewhere. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Claudia Jonah. Yeah. Claudette. I'm sorry. Claudette Jonah. And I think that covers everyone. As I'm scrolling back.
We might be coming out to Brazil in the future. That's for real.
Man, that would be nice, man.
That was for real.
I hear so many good things about
yeah.
Brazil. Guaranteed, man.
Yeah.
And it would be nice to kind of check that out or whatever. Maybe this summer. I don't know. Fall, whatever.
Yeah.
But if nothing else, man, thank you all for joining us. Thank you for being a part of this. Man, we need to do this more often. I know you probably seen some of the shorts and some of the content. Check our content out. Subscribe, like, share it, send it to other people, have them subscribe or whatever. We're trying to grow the channel and we're trying to do a lot of different things. And we really appreciate it. We really appreciate it, guaranteed. And it definitely
together. Yes.
Yeah. Look, Cheeto says live show in Brazil. Hey, I feel it. I
gotta get my Portuguese up. I gotta get it up. Let's go.
For sure. But hey, as always, man, thank you. We really appreciate Cash App if you can. It just kind of help the channel out and things of that nature. But guarantee you guys, thank you, and thank you. And that's the uncomfortable truth.
Roger that. Do something. God bless you all. Roger that and out. Yes.
Baby. For sure. Guarantee. Let me. You know what? Let's do the little thing because we never get a chance to.
Okay. Man, my hair gone.